Oh, I'm there. Hello. Hello, everybody. I don't know if me starting talking kicks this off or... All right, here we go. We're going. Oh my
We
goodness.
did it.
Confusion reigns. I have no control other than my voice, and this is not AI that is voice controlled. So, hello, everybody. Welcome to our earnings call. It's been a while since we've done one, but it's been a while since we've had some good earnings. Today, frankly, we've got a chocker block lineup here of all sorts of earnings. I'm just trying to call up the list here. Everything from the three that we're going to focus on today are Microsoft, Meta, and Tesla. Not necessarily in that order, but we could.
We could.
Then we also have things like ServiceNow, Celestica, IBM, Levi Strauss, Waste Management. I don't know. There's all sorts. Las Vegas Sands. That can sometimes be fun, but not on earnings. All sorts of things. But we'll stick to the top three for the most part. Jared, we figure that's probably what we have time for, right?
Yeah, I mean we're here for the big boys. And right now, this earnings release, it's basically the biggest of the big. We're looking at about 7 trillion in market cap about to come out as far as up and down, back and forth, side to side. So we got to focus on the big ones and see how the market digests all this volatility.
I like that. That's one way to look at it. 7 trillion worth of corporate value coming at you here in the next few minutes. All right, so let's do it. Let's start with the oldest, the granddaddy of the three, which would be Microsoft, because it actually also is the one that has earnings right at 4. The other two come out at 4:05. So just in case you're putting a timing to it, that's the time. Now, maybe just before I get to Microsoft, we have to keep in mind the backdrop of today, right? Which is that we just had the Fed rate announcement, which, as predicted, came out at unchanged. So the Fed said we're going to hold things steady. The Powell press conference, again, as expected, had him dodging a lot of questions about his relationship with the administration, about what he's going to be doing in the future, about the Fed's views on things that he will continually say are outside of the Fed's purview. Those things that he did answer, he was pretty definitive, I guess, in his approach, saying that we will wait for the data, take things as they come. He was also very clear at saying that it's hard to predict. He didn't want to say it directly, it felt like, but he was certainly implying that, like a lot of us have been saying, and a lot of pundits have been saying, that the markets seem to be out of sync with the overall economy. And as such, it's hard to determine exactly what the Fed should do to manage that, because we're in an unprecedented territory, right? When you have markets at all-time high, but Fed spending also at all-time high, with the debt getting higher at unprecedented rates, that's a little bit of a weird combination, right? Normally, when times are good, is when you have the opportunity to either at least reduce the level of debt accumulation, if not decrease it. But it's one of these things where, as an economist, you got to imagine he and his team are sitting there saying, "Well, if this is what it looks like when times are good, how do we help manage an economy if it should start to turn?" And that is what I think a lot of people on Wall Street are waiting, because there could be some drastic moves from the Fed should that happen. But again, to be clear, the Fed is saying, and we have seen, no signs thus far. All right, so all of that is a backdrop. Let's get to the three companies. Microsoft starting first. Again, granddaddy of the stocks. They're expected to deliver about $80.1 billion in revenue and $3.88 in bottom line earnings. Expected to have a strong quarter. Their AI services have been picking up over the last couple of quarters and expected to continue this quarter. They also have, interestingly, got a bunch of bullish upgrades from a number of analysts. However, those same analysts cut their targets. So they do think there's growth in Microsoft, but they're signaling maybe the growth, the high level growth target, isn't as high above the current price as they may once have believed. So we'll see how that plays out. Of course, we'll find out when there's earnings. And the last thing I'm going to mention, this is interesting to me when I'm looking at the analysts. Normally, you get the consensus of analyst reports. That's one thing. What we're seeing now is that there is a review that talks about the prediction markets, and the prediction markets are giving Microsoft a 93% chance of beating their numbers. I mean, I know what that means, but what does that really mean? Because the prediction markets typically have been applied to things that are non-stock related, right? The prediction markets have been used for sports betting. They've been used for, I don't know, crazy, world event things, likelihood of them occurring. Well, they're getting broader, and now they're taking the prediction markets and overlaying them on top of the traditional market and valuation-based analysis that we're used to out of market analysts. So I find this interesting. I don't know what to make of it. I don't know if it's going to change the tenor or the outlook of what our quarterly earnings review looks like. I'm guessing not, to be honest, but it's interesting to have this additional data where Microsoft, by the way, of the three we'll look at, has the highest prediction rating of beating their numbers at 93%. All right. So all that being said, what could the move look like? And this is where Jared can help us understand the charts and the technicals and the range of motion we might expect.
Perfect. So, yeah, normally we're kind of kicking off with a little bit of understanding of Microsoft's technical location. Right now, we're mostly focused on 2026 activity, and a lot of that activity is going to be centered around over the past couple of weeks. Microsoft seeing a little bit of a decline in price, and then over the past 5 days, essentially some form of short covering rally or just a return back to where we opened on the start of the year. So zero kind of start line as far as where the reference points are this year, but significant sort of, I would say, like bottoming and retracement type of activity over the past couple days. The main number that we're looking for as of this moment is the expected move. And given it's our first one, I'm going to go over a quick synopsis of what that is. Typically, when we're looking for what the option market is pricing for the stock we're about to see report, we're trying to get a sense of how volatile the stock is capable of being. Essentially, how much risk is priced into the stock over the next binary event or the next move. A lot of times with earnings, we leverage the weekly option series for this number. And what we're trying to gain a sense of is how rich are the premiums for those contracts, which over the course of how the platform aggregates this number and based on a mathematical model, it comes out to a plus or minus range based on price. This number at the sort of top right-hand side of my screen is the expected move calculated by the platform. It's essentially taking the at the money straddle and adding those two numbers together. If you're familiar with option strategies, taking something like a 480 Microsoft straddle for the next 2 days will cost you approximately $26. Adding 13 plus 13, I think my math is quite on the money there. So all this means is that the option market says over the next 2 days, and more importantly, over the next big event, Microsoft is going to move approximately $26. And that would be a normal type of move for Microsoft. It's kind of like the total risk that's being priced in. We know that it can move more. We know that it can move less. There's a lot of different variances in that, but this is sort of the one standard deviation range of what this stock is capable of moving. So that's the explanation of the expected move. It's kind of why we use it. And it also gives us really good targets because we can translate this into price. So as we take this number, 26 plus or minus, we move over to the chart and we look for Microsoft's closing price. Right now, of course, hard to tell exactly where it's going to close, but I'm kind of guessing 480 because Microsoft's pretty static right now. If we add and subtract that $26, it gets us an upper expected move of about 506. Obviously, I've been moving it around ever since Microsoft has been trading today, and it gets us a lower expected move of about 454. So, as you can see, this gives us pretty decent price range as far as what's been traded over the 2026 price action. It also kind of cuts back historically because we have a lot of in-range price action from the end of 2025, both the top side of Microsoft, where it sort of topped out at the late August and mid-September peaks, along with the low end, kind of bringing it a little bit closer to the swing low of this year, and also some of the basing patterns that we saw in early May of last year. So still a range bound stock, still, opportunities for high and low trade. But as far as the move we're about to expect, these are going to be the edges that technical traders are going to be looking for, and option traders are going to be trading around. Um, the last thing I normally do is kind of take a look at where the highest open interest and volume sits for Microsoft. As you can tell, everybody's kind of sitting around 500. If you look on the call side of the market, volume and open interest is the highest at that price. Definitely a bullish lean, given that the put side of the market is a little bit thinner, not necessarily traded as heavily, but still viable as the stock is being hedged in case there is I'll just say a normal drop in price, with that plus or minus 26 being our range. So should be pretty nice. I think 26 with a $480 stock, that gives us what, 6% volatility? It's pretty good. It's not great. We like to see maybe 8 or 10 for big moves, but 6% is pretty good for Microsoft, and that's plenty of market cap to throw around. So that's all I got. Technicals are done. Back to Peter.
Okay, that means we get to move to numero dos. The second one here on our slate today is Meta. Now, Meta Platforms, as they like to call themselves these days, I do enjoy that name, by the way. They went from Facebook to Meta Platforms, Inc. Anyways, they are expected in this quarter to deliver about $58.4 billion in revenue and earnings of $8.21 a share. What's interesting in this quarter is there's going to be some talk about how their AI is affecting their bottom line profitability and what their plans are for the future. They are expected to have a very positive quarter and exceed the number. Once again, if we look at those prediction markets for what it's worth, they're giving them an implied 90% chance of beating that number. And Meta actually just came out either yesterday, I don't know if it was earlier today or yesterday, and announced that in a test market, which is Italy, I believe, they're going to start charging users or developers per message. So they're going to put a per message charge for developers that are using their AI platform, which is not a surprise. Eventually, they have to try and monetize this AI. You can't provide it for free forever, but it's interesting they're going to start with the developers, and basically as they embed it into their apps and sort of re-leverage it, they're going to charge them a back end fee for usage. So. What does that mean? I don't know. It's a test market. It's one isolated. In fact, I think they're only starting with WhatsApp and maybe one or two other social media platforms. So we'll see. It's going to depend on how it goes and what the reaction is, but it's a first indication of a way to start monetizing AI for these companies that have spent billions in its development. Meta Platforms, and my alarm went off, which means we're getting close to the 1 to 10. Maybe I'll just end there and say let's look at the move so that we don't run into the end of the markets here, Jared.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, not a problem. Meta Platforms, similar technical look to Microsoft. I think both stocks were pretty much topping out at the August 2025 high end, and you can kind of see where Meta has that sort of double top look back in August and September. Ever since the previous earnings, Meta's been either on the decline or a bit sideways. We've got some balance now forming on the bigger chart. But as I mentioned with Microsoft, 2026 price actions more relevant to, I would just say, perception of newer range and newer trade. Meta was seeing a decline as well, and over the past couple of days has completely recovered price. So we're sitting right at the opening print area for Meta in 2026, meaning that the stock is actually green on the year so far. That can obviously change very quickly. So overall technicals, I'd say it's either going to be looking for some sort of prior earnings high breakout and maybe filling up the gap or parts of the gap that were left over, or simply rejecting from the area again because as of now, we can't seem to break past this. And there even was a session late 2026 that tried and failed. It's a bit of a wick. So for Meta, the expected move is plus or minus 45. Um, we have a $672.5 stock right now, hoping to close maybe closer to 675. Get those numbers a little tightened up. But it's a larger expected move number. It's also a larger priced stock. Percentage wise, probably looking at about 7.5, almost upwards of 8% volatility. However, just don't take the number outright. Meta is a significantly larger per share stock, so it kind of deserves that extra numerical expected move. But 45 plus or minus one standard deviation of movement kind of brings us to about 625 point, or sorry, 622.5 to the downside and about 712.5 to the upside. It kind of depends on where Meta closes. As you can see, I marked it closer to a 670 print. And if we get some variation, I'll make some adjustments. But plus or minus 45, lots of movement. Could test the low of the year or near the lows where it started to recover. Could also fill a portion of the prior earnings gap, but Meta is known to breach expected moves. So as far as the quality of this stock and how it moves on earnings, this one tends to have a little bit of an extra premium for the actual move. And I don't think the option market really priced that in this much this quarter. So we'll see if Meta maybe gives us a bit of a surprise. All right, back to Peter.
Okay, so if I understand that my trading face looks like my confused face, so if you saw me looking confused, darn it, I was actually taking a 1 to 10 trade on AMD. Took it short, and it was looking good until just a second ago. Jared, can you say something again smart to make the AMD go down? Because while you were talking, it was dropping. So,
Quantitative easing.
okay, go on, AMD. React to that.
Do, do
We,
something.
we, it's sort of an inside joke. Jared and I were joking about this the other day. Say something smart, and it's like, well, what does that mean, right? What do you consider smart? Anyways, all right. Let's get to the third and final one for this afternoon. I'm so used to doing this in the morning. Tesla. Tesla is, to me, Tesla's a fascinating company. Let's start with the date, the numbers. They're expected to deliver 25.02 billion in revenue and 45 cents per share earnings. By the way, it's good to see Tesla in positive earnings. I looked at this for so long when they were at negative earnings that it's amazing that they're making money. So good for them. Now, despite everybody's protestations, and I've heard this argument, I'm going to now, you know what I said? One of my objectives for this year was to avoid conflict. I said I was going to try and avoid drama and conflict. But anyways, I'm doing it anyways. Oh, sorry, AMD's dropping. Need to take a partial here. This is my 2 to 1. Beautiful. Okay, we got a partial there. Anyways, Tesla is everybody's saying Tesla's not about cars. It's all about the robots and their IP and their self-driving mode. And yeah, I hear you. That's future Tesla. That is not, oh my God, Tesla, AMD just popped right back up here. That is not current Tesla. Current Tesla, their earnings are completely based on the revenue they're making off the products they're selling. And they're not selling robots, and they're currently not licensing all of that capability they've got. They're selling cars. So, as much as yes, a lot of the valuation and the future of Tesla is going to be driven by the technology and what they're able to do with it, if anything, because by the way, it's not a fait accompli, right? They had a lead on this for a long time, but I think that lead has been significantly eroded more than we understand, and we'll only figure it out, of course, once other products get to market and then show active competition, which you know there's a lot of people working behind the scenes to do just that. We just don't know how close they are because, of course, Tesla is also pedaling hard, like the duck, right? Feet moving real fast below the surface. In any event, this earnings is going to be based on what they're able to deliver on cars. We know that their earnings are often less important than their number of cars both manufactured and delivered, right? That tends to be the more important number, which usually does not come out simultaneously with earnings, right? It's on a slightly different cycle. However, the numbers are what I just described. The prediction markets only give Tesla a 17% chance of beating their numbers. So remember, we were talking 90 and 93% on Microsoft and Meta, or Meta and Microsoft, respectively. They're giving Tesla only a 17%, so much lower confidence level in Tesla being able to beat their numbers. So we'll see what happens. Jared, how much could it move?
Well, if they're giving it that low of a prediction, maybe Tesla goes up and the other two go down because
It
that
could
that
be.
makes the most sense to me, right? All right. So for Tesla, technicals are pretty straightforward. It's actually a bit tighter than Meta or Microsoft's trading range. As far as the technicals are concerned, Tesla's been up here since September, and outside of an attempt to move lower in November and an attempt to move higher in December, we've been stuck in balance ever since we made it up here in sort of early September. It's also true that Tesla is flat relative to the prior earnings, whereas Microsoft and Meta are down respectively. I think Meta down a little bit more. Tesla's actually flat. So year to date, down slightly, hasn't fully recovered the price. Relative to prior earnings, flat. And it's kind of an interesting posture that Tesla's holding up a little bit better, even though there's been some attempts to expand. The expected move for Tesla is sitting right at 25, this number right here. Um, Given where we're about to close, it's looking like a 432.50 type close, which
There
means I
you
will
go.
have to adjust my numbers slightly, but it puts our expected move high and low near 457.5 and then 407.5, just giving it that plus or minus around 432. Um, yeah, 432.5 close. Obviously, it's still moving right now, so I needed to stop. But other than that, just kind of looking for those larger trading range areas and just be thinking those whole dollar numbers because Tesla really doesn't have a large call or put price level that I noticed was important. Really, it's just a lot of open interest across the board with larger traders obviously sitting closer to 450, 460, and then downside traders probably closer to 410 than they would be at 407.50. But I always like to take the closing price and try and get the expected move as accurate as possible. Um, as we're about to close here, I think one thing we should also do is look for the time of earnings release. So I don't know if you have that offhand, Peter, but we should probably get that soon.
Yep, Microsoft is supposed to be right at 4, so 30 seconds from now. Meta and Tesla both at 4:05. So that's what we're looking at.
And with that, markets are looking to close in about 20 seconds here. So kind of tighten up some of these expected move ranges, see if we can get them a little bit more accurate and see how the cookie crumbles.
The three cookies.
Yeah, got triple layer
We got a,
cookies today.
we got a We got a good old oatmeal cookie here in Microsoft. We got maybe a chocolate chip cookie with Meta, and I'm gonna make Tesla like a ginger snap.
Okay. I
Just
like
like
that. And
just like
Tesla's
that.
feisty stock.
And unpredictable.
So Microsoft is oatmeal? Man, that's how boring Microsoft is these days.
Well, yeah. Although chocolate chip oatmeal are my favorite cookies, and
Yeah.
they're not as popular as I think they should be.
Chocolate chip oatmeal is kind
People
of
people don't
making
think
it
they
stand
like
out a
them
bit
until they
more.
have them, and then they're like, "This is delicious. Do you have another one?" Uh, anyways,
Right, I'm getting an
all right.
initial
Okay,
reaction here.
Microsoft, yes, $20 to the downside. Here we go. Big move initially. Now, no, this initial move isn't always reliable, but let's see what happens. Oh, $25.
Starting to get
Not
a
quite.
little bit closer to the lower end of the expected, giving up the performance of today and trying to get closer to about 455.
Meta's going the other way. Meta's moving higher again. Numbers aren't out yet for Meta, so sometimes see that's what happens. People just get a little overexcited. Look at Meta. It just went from $20 above the close to $20 below the close. Well, not quite, to $15 below the close. Just like that. All right. So, um,
Microsoft clearing
these,
460 pretty easily here. Trying to see if we can get a little bit lower.
uh,
Meta turning here as well,
mhm.
spinning back around.
Funny how uh, Meta had that initial move, and we'll see here when the numbers come out. A lot of earnings, so I'm seeing lots of earnings announcements, but not for what I'm looking for here.
Microsoft is hitting the lower expected move. Let's see if there's any reaction here.
TerraTech, they had earnings.
Right now, all I see is red on Microsoft.
All you see is red, like you're angry.
Well, I'm sure the bulls are at this point.
Oh shoot! Hold on a sec. I never got out of my AMD.
Oh,
Well,
oh, big reaction
oh
there.
no, it's got like a 50-cent spread. Yikes. All right, well, it's still below my entry, so that's good. Okay, we're out of AMD. I had an AMD short there, so that worked out on my 1 to 10.
Yeah, I'm sure some of the tech stocks might be sympathetically selling here. Microsoft is still kind of leaning downside. We just cleared 450 pretty violently, got about a $5 wick down there, but I'm seeing some balance on the level two, trying to kind of stabilize the price. Doesn't look like there's much buying going on at the moment, so just gotta be careful if you're looking for anything counter trend. We are not really resolving upside yet. And obviously, a larger move than expected
Meta,
is already kind of a big deal for Microsoft. So
yeah.
it's kind
So
of noteworthy.
Meta's numbers are out. It looks like they beat their earnings number, delivering $8.88 a share, bottom line. And sales were at, now this doesn't jive with my other numbers. Hold on, let me find the other numbers here and bring it up. Meta was 58.4. All right, so they delivered 59.9 billion in revenue versus a 58.4 estimate. So it looks like they did well in quarter. 10% increase. So I don't know. I guess the market's saying not good enough.
Hmm.
I mean, keep in mind, while this looks all active and the volume is relatively low, really we'll find out what the market at large thinks tomorrow when we
Mhm.
open. However, I also see that Tesla's numbers are out. Looks like they beat their sales. Earnings were 50 cents versus the 45-cent estimate, and sales were at 24.9 billion. Now, this says that there's the news report says that they had an estimate of 24.8. I saw an estimate of 25.02. So one way they either beat or missed their sales, depending on which number you want to believe. But it looks like everybody agrees they beat the bottom line earnings numbers. So,
Hmm.
however, all three of these stocks have dropped from the closing price.
Yeah.
And let's see,
Microsoft is still
Meta.
kind of hammered here.
Meta's forecasting Q1 to be quite a bit above estimates. 51 billion was the analyst consensus for the Q1. They're saying they think they can do 51.3 was the analyst consensus estimate. They say they think they can do 53.5 to 56 and a half. So that's quite a bit above.
Hmm. Yeah, that's significant.
So, so we'll see what happens. I haven't actually seen Microsoft's numbers yet. Maybe I'm missing. If anybody has Microsoft's numbers out there, let me know. I think that Microsoft it seems to have stabilized yet. They were supposed to be first out the gate. They're normally pretty reliable, I think. It's a little
Hmm.
odd that they're late. They've been doing this the longest, that's for sure. They already announced, David in the chat room says they announced on CNBC. So, well, they got the Bloomberg terminal. They know faster. So, can you tell me what the numbers are? I don't see them in my news release here yet. So,
Microsoft trying to recover over 450. Bid hasn't lifted yet. That's kind of the price to beat right now for the buyers. Doesn't doesn't look that stable. Tesla making a turn here, and Meta quite volatile. So quite a lot
whoa,
going on here.
look at Tesla.
Yeah, Tesla turning
Turn and
quickly.
burn, baby. That was quite a rip higher. Interesting on Tesla. I'm not a big earnings trader, so I'm happy to watch you guys if you're making money good. I know, after hours earnings are both exciting and extremely dangerous. You need to have strong risk controls. So it feels good when you win, but if you lose, you can get hurt bad if you're
Yeah,
not prepared. So just be careful. Don't
yeah.
get too
Things can
excited.
change quickly. And
Yeah, you don't want to overextend yourself, right? All right, so Microsoft finally see the numbers here. It looks like their sales were over at about $1 billion over estimates at 81.2 versus 80.2. And their earnings per share came out at $4.14, which also beats the estimate, which is somewhere around $3.90. So everybody beat their numbers, but like we've been seeing for a lot of quarterly earnings, just beating is not good enough. You have to either like just smash down the door and amaze everybody. And by the way, have some big announcement about something new and exciting you're going to be doing, presumably with AI, or
yeah,
your stock will sort of suffer as we see here. So,
Microsoft.
and a leather jacket, Sam. Maybe that's what they're missing. You're right. Maybe they need to follow the NVIDIA model. More leather. You can never go wrong with with
More
more leather.
cowbell and more leather.
Yeah, exactly. Gary, look at this. Gary jumped on Tesla and went for the ride. Wow. Okay.
I was able to capture a small retracement on Microsoft. It was a little tricky. It stretched itself much further than expected, so but they were
Here's
able to come back to expected move, which is nice.
here's Gary in his office right now. Posted that in the chat room.
Now, Meta turning completely around. I'd be interested to see what happens at the reaction high that it just hit. So even though
Yeah.
they're not hitting the expected moves, we're still getting basically full reversal type movement.
Now, for your movie buffs, this is a super easy one, but name the movie that I took that clip from. And if you don't know, I'll give you a hint that the actor holding the brass balls is Alec Baldwin. There you go. A Percival you clearly know. Yeah, coffee's for closers. ABC, always be closing. You bet, Harvey. That's the one. So, GT mentioned it, Percival. I knew you knew because you used a quote from it. Yes, Glengarry Glen Ross. Movie that did horrible at the box office. It is not an action movie. It is super slow. It is an awesome movie if you ever actually want to watch it. So, just in my opinion, I think it's a great movie. But it's not the fast-paced type movie you expect these days. No, Edward, I don't really trade earnings. I don't trade after hours. I'm happy to watch. I'm happy to cheer people on. I don't usually trade. I just I can't manage the risk, right? I like strong risk controlled trades, and you have to sort of have much broader risk parameters to trade earnings. The rewards can be there. They can be great, but it's one of those where you probably win one out of five, and you're the five you're going to win huge, but it's just going to pay for all the others. That's my experience, anyways.
Keeping a close eye here on Meta hitting 700 a share. Keep in mind, Meta is technically breaking out, but we're once again kind of pushing into some overhead resistance and closer to our expected move. Um, Anytime I see earnings movement like this, I try and stay away from like a quick reaction just because it's not as sharp as I always look for on other setups, but it is hitting a key price. So if there were to be like a pivot high or something around 700, this is kind of where I'd expect some exhaustion initially.
Just in other earnings, we mentioned there's a whole bunch of other companies that have earnings. I see that, for instance, ServiceNow, NOW, if you want that ticker, they came out with their earnings. Looks like they just barely beat on sales, but did well on their bottom line earnings, over delivering by 4 cents at 92 cents a share. Um, Lam Research, their numbers came out. Looks like they beat their numbers as well. No, that's a much smaller company, of course, but what else we got? There's a whole bunch of others. KB Home, Merchants Bank Corp. We don't follow any of those. They don't trade very well. Did I hear you say that SanDisk had earnings? No,
Now that's tomorrow
that's tomorrow. Okay.
with Western Digital.
Levi Strauss. I was really hoping Levi Strauss has an interesting corporate history if anybody's followed them. I remember when they went public about it was right at the beginning of COVID, or it was like 20, I don't know, 2019 maybe, when they went public again. But they basically had been public at least once, if not twice earlier. Like they were private, went private again, public, and then private. Anyways, so they've been back and forth a few times with different ownership and management, and now they're publicly traded again. I had big hopes that they were going to trade well. Never have, not once. I watched them for months and never got even a decent trade opportunity out of them. So it's not quite dead to me, but it's
Close
I don't
enough.
love it like I used to. When I was a kid, that's all I would wear, Levi's jeans. That's all I would wear.
You
Uh,
know, I was into Levi's as well,
I think
but
there was an era, at least when I was a kid, and it was the thing.
I'm not sure if it was completely my choice though, because I think my mother was still involved with those choices,
There you go.
but I always enjoyed them.
No, no t-shirt, just jeans. I wasn't Putining it. No, I did, usually wear a shirt.
Looks like Microsoft is kind of getting some overhead selling going on. Looks like this bounce is about to kind of top out as well, so I'm kind of covering out what I had left. Not a bad retracement there. About $10 a share.
for
from
most of
450.
my, well, not most, for all of my youth, yeah. Wearing no shirt just would have been scary because I was scrawny. I was very scrawny.
Let's see if I can get filled. Okay.
Scrawny, it's scrawny that can pull it off, I guess. My wife used to complain how pointy my hips were. Maybe that's oversharing. Never mind. Scrawny and pale. I always sported a pretty massive farmer's tan because I loved being outside. I was outside and very active all the time. That's why, like, I eat to this day, I eat so much. I eat a ton, and I love eating. And because I just always have been very active. And but yeah, so I had great farmer's tans because you'd always wear a shirt and then you get this line, of course. All right, guys.
So,
Looks like the movement has slowed a little bit. Microsoft did bounce and slowly winding its way higher. Uh,
mhm.
Meta and Tesla also bounced, but a little more aggressively. In fact, it got more aggressive from Microsoft to Meta to Tesla. How that bounce looked. So,
Yeah, I'm kind of observing a couple things here. First things first, stocks that were able to hit the expected moves on the initial reaction.
mhm.
Usually it kind of helps me determine if expected move is going to be accurate for upcoming earnings or if there's a semblance of volatility going into these reports. And only one out of three on this one so far. So I usually keep these numbers on my chart for the following days because we can still hit these numbers later in a follow-up session or anything up until Friday. Um, However, I am seeing stocks like IBM, which I believe we're looking at about like an $18 expected move. Let's take a look real quick. IBM showing, yeah, it's about an 18-ish dollar expected move for IBM. And as you can see, it's moving kind of more significantly than that. I mean, we probably would have put it close to like 310, maybe 312 for 18 bucks. So, there are some stocks that are breaching their expected. Microsoft at least achieved the expected, and then the other two, Meta and Tesla, have time, but haven't quite hit it immediately. So it's kind of a difference in how these stocks are moving and which ones are more volatile than what the option market priced in. So good for notes. It's good to kind of see what's working in earning season periods because sometimes we have more volatile earning seasons and sometimes we have less volatile ones. Given it's our first one in 2026, uh, really
Tough.
good time to gauge what's working.
Yeah.
So, wow, IBM is really putting the onus on the sellers here.
Well, we
Looking
didn't
for a
even look
breakout
at
here of
what's
all-time
IBM
high,
doing.
actually.
Oh yeah, IBM pushing higher. Look at that.
Yep,
So.
should be an
Okay, guys,
all-time
I
high.
think we'll call it there for our earnings. If you're trading, be smart, right? Don't overextend yourself. If you've managed to make some money of it, congratulations and well done. And we will see you at the next earnings. We'll figure out we may be doing one tomorrow, maybe, maybe not. We know that Apple comes out later. We got a couple others that we could take a look at in the meantime. So we'll stay tuned. We'll let you know at the pre-market show tomorrow morning. Take care. Have a good night, Jared. Thank you so much as always.
All right. Thank you so much, Peter. Have a wonderful afternoon. Thanks for
Good,
joining.
everyone. And thanks to Carlos. He's in the background. You haven't heard him, but he's out there. He's managing the controls. So
Thank you,
thank you.
Carlos.
Take care, everybody. Good night, Jared.
Bye, Peter. Later.
Later.